Hi, everyone. This is the Gas House Gang. This is a chance for KMOX personalities to kind of let loose a little bit, air it out, talk about things that we talk about on the air, but we're taking you backstage with Kevin Wheeler. I'm Tom Ackerman. It's great to have you back. We have an opportunity to talk about the Cardinals and other sports. As you can see, we cover it all here at KMOX, but the Cardinals right now are on everyone's mind. The season is wrapping up. By the way, any chance that you get, subscribe to the KMOX Sports YouTube page. You're going to have Kevin, you're going to have me, Matt Pauley, Joe Pott, Mike Claiborne, Bernie Miklas. I mean, you name them, right down the line. We send them at you one after the other. We have the best lineup in town, and we know that, and it's a chance for all of us to kind of give it. We're not going to be all on at once, but it gives
that would be great, though.
It would be fun.
That would be great.
But Kevin and I, if you recall, did a show that was very popular, called the Cardinals Conference. And, it was a chance for us, Kevin, to talk about the club. And last year, the team was bad, and it was rough. I mean, they were 20 games under 500. It really was over, though, in June. I mean, if you were paying attention, they started to wave the white flag. They dealt away players. And the whole point was to get ready for 2024 and be great. And they were anything but great this year. As we talk right now, they're a game over 500, and they're going to finish on the outside looking in. I do want to really focus on what the future of this club is. But first, give me your overview of why this thing fell apart in 2024.
I mean, the simple Cliff's Notes version is that your best players weren't your best players, right? Remember how Ken Hitchcock used to say that all the time? When playoff time comes around, your best players need to be your best players. It hasn't happened, man. I mean, you've got, and this is not about like pounding the table and beating up on people. I mean, these guys are all trying. That's not the question. But production is production. Numbers are numbers. And we have full careers for guys like Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt to kind of decide what expectations should be for a season. Well, neither one of them's close. They're basically league average players. And that's the thing you can't plan for. You can't plan for players that are combining to make $60 million this year. You cannot plan around those guys not being good. They weren't terrible. They weren't awful, but they were average. They're league average hitters. And that's not good enough. So to me, it starts there, but it's not ending there, right? This is a couple of young guys, Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker, not living up to expectations. And also, I think a larger scale thing, Tom, the team's inability to get younger players back on track when they veer off course. That's been a problem. I mean, it's been a problem for years. Now, a guy like Mason Wynn didn't veer off course, so there's nothing to bring back, right? You just let him keep on going and you coax him along. But when somebody hits a period where they're struggling, how many years has it been that we've talked about this, where a young guy gets into a rut and they just don't get out? And some of them end up getting traded, getting moved, and they end up figuring some things out in other places. So to me, those are the two things that are the big ones. There are others, right? The starting rotation was only okay. It wasn't big time. It wasn't elite, but I don't think anybody thought it was coming into the year, right? This team didn't pretend like they were targeting elite players. They went out and got guys that are going to get innings. And to a degree that worked. It's not like they were awesome. Kyle Gibson was great in the first half, a little less in the second. Lance Lynn got off to a good start, struggled a while. And then here the last 3 or 4 has been pretty good. So that part's not what's killing you. What's killed you is offense. So your stars, couple of young guys, and then also not hitting with runners in scoring position. Although that might just be as simple as the guys I'm talking about not having good years.
Well, let's focus on just that then. Let's focus on offense and position players here for this conversation, because this has been about not giving players, as you mentioned, the opportunity or a pathway necessarily for success. I do think that that's why we've seen some of these players go on and succeed with other organizations. The pathway to success has not been there. You must draft and develop. You must do it at a very high level. And then if you miss on a position somewhere along the line, that's where you spend the money on free agency. You patch that hole with a big timer. And so, the pitching obviously has to be great to win. We all know that. But let's focus mostly on what we see here in terms of this young core. Actually, let's weed out the old, okay, first. Paul Goldschmidt's under contract for just another week or so, and then he's going to be a free agent. Let's assume that he's gone. Nolan Arenado is on the downslide. Who doesn't love Nolan Arenado? I mean, he's one of the great players of his generation, but let's be honest, he's reaching that point of his career where he is not the killer at the plate that he used to be. And so you have to start thinking about the future eventually there, but not anytime soon. Same thing for catcher. Wilson Contreras is under contract. He is going to be back with his team, you would assume. He was a world champion, but that was 8 years ago in 2016 with the Cubs. So he is a little long in the tooth there with still some years ahead of him.
He's a known commodity, right? I mean, you know who he is. Yeah, and by the way, with the Cardinals, he's been a really good hitter. Really good.
He's been great. He's been great.
When he's not been hurt,
when he's healthy, he's had a freak year. He just has with the getting hit on the arm and then the broken finger. It's just it's too bad. But okay, so let's look at the other positions. I'm going to start at first base, actually, and we'll get to the middle infield. And there's a lot to talk about there, a lot. But let's get to first base. All right. So if Goldie's gone, who plays first base? My first candidate's Alec Burleson. Burleson has been excellent. The guy can absolutely rake. I love when he's positioned. I don't love when he's pinch hit for, but I understand, that you give other people opportunities. What I want is Alec Burleson in the middle of the order or anywhere in the order every single day. What do you see the future is for Alec Burleson?
I'm with you as far as this goes, but I think if I'm running the show, I'm not going out and spending on a veteran first baseman. I've got the in-house candidates. Burleson is my number one. But one of my things, and this is something the team didn't do this year, and it's something that other good teams do, is, and by the way, good teams that don't have one specific answer at a spot, you got to play the platoon advantage. Why wouldn't your first baseman next year be Burleson and Baker? I mean, Baker has destroyed left-handers. He's done it here at the major league level for a little bit. It's such a small sample size, it's hard to really make too much out of it. But it looks like it has for 3 years at Memphis, because at AAA, he's crushed lefties. So if I told you that between Burleson and Baker at first base, you could get 30, 35 home runs, would you take it?
Sure.
Because you probably could, with Burleson playing against all righties and some lefties, and Baker playing against all the lefties and some of the righties, right? I don't mean, when I say platoons, I don't mean like every time a lefty comes in, you come out. I'm just talking about playing the starting lineup matchups. And maybe on those days, maybe Burleson has a fit in the outfield instead of first base. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not necessarily limiting one guy to a strict platoon. It's just saying at that position, we can maximize it because Baker can't play anywhere else.
Okay, so let me jump in real quick. So give me a percentage. Is this strictly against lefties for Baker? Does he get more than that? Here's my hesitation. I love
to start games, right? Not necessarily as a game goes along.
Okay.
If you're in there and righties come along, or look, again, you pick your spots. If Baker's been good at hitting fastballs and you got a guy that's a right-hander starting against you who's not locating off speed, but he does throw a lot of fastballs, maybe you play the matchup, which is kind of my point. Playing the matchups can mean left and right, but it can also mean repertoire, your strengths against his strengths, your weaknesses against his weaknesses. So it's not just strictly left or right.
I see that. I see that. My only hesitation, and I love the big Texan. I love Luke and Baker. But I've seen Alec Burleson. This is more not an indictment of Baker, more my love for what I've seen from Biscuit is that I've seen 2+ years of the guy, so I've seen a lot of hard hit balls. I've seen a ball player develop.
How's he done against lefties?
Not as good as Baker. No,
this is And look, this is part of the bigger conversation, but part of this is at some point recognizing what guys can and can't do, and then not asking them to do the things they can't do well. Mm-hmm. And if you're talking about now this gets to a larger question, Tom. Are we looking at 2025 as if we contend, if we win, that's great, but we're accomplishing something else first? Or are we looking at it like you're trying to maximize your wins for 2025? If you're looking to maximize your wins.
Yeah, I think you got to tell your fan base you're maximizing wins.
If you're doing that, then it's time to stop letting guys figure things out. If a guy shows you he can't hit lefties, Nolan Gorman, you're a platoon player. If you can't be a good defender, you're a DH. If you're trying to maximize 2025, I really think, and we'll go around the other question positions, but I think this principle applies to the whole thing. They've been caught in between for too long. You've been trying to do two things at once. You've been trying to let guys like Burleson and Gorman and Wynn and Walker establish themselves. And at the same time, you're playing with the standings day to day, right? So look at Milwaukee. They had Jackson Chourio up. The first 2 months of the year this year, Chourio was terrible. They went a full 4, 5, 6 day stretch at one point where he didn't play at all because he was not playing well enough. But what did they do? They stuck with him all year. They didn't send him down. They gave him the help that he needed. They figured out a way, and he's been an all-star since the beginning of June. He's got a 900 OPS since the beginning of June. You have to kind of decide, are we focused solely on 2025 winning the division and making the playoffs, or are we balancing that against what we need to do with Walker, Gorman, and the young guys? If it's about winning in 2025, then we have to stop asking people to do things that they're not good at, because that's how you're going to lose games.
Yeah, and you got to play players to know what they're not good at. So you got to be able to see. I mean, we got to see the big picture. No,
I'll tell you this, Tom. I will tell you this. Minor league numbers do not translate directly to the major leagues. We know that for a fact. But I can tell you this. If you're not good at something in the minors, you're not suddenly going to get good at it in the majors.
No, I got you.
If you don't hit sliders low and away at AAA, you're not hitting them in the majors. If you don't hit lefties in the minors, you're not going to come up and face the best lefties on the planet and suddenly hit them. So it's tough, because I agree with you. I like Burleson, and I think he's got a chance to be that. But do I build my maximum lineup for winning games by seeing if he can do that again when the evidence I have now says not so much?
There was a point in the season where the number one guy I trusted in the lineup was Alec Burleson.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
That's probably why
I'm with you on that. He can hit, man.
I get that. And I love having Luke and Baker involved in there. Okay, so you mentioned Gorman and second base. Are the Cardinals keeping the second base warm for J.J. Weatherholt and just sort of figuring it out until then? Yeah. Or is it Brendan Donovan's job? I can't give it, obviously, to Nolan Gorman. I mean, the guy's a strikeout machine as far as he can hit the ball. Yeah. He's already shown enough of a sample there that he's not a consistent hitter.
Yep. And again, this whole conversation comes down to picking a lane, basically, right? If you're trying to win as many games as you can in 2025, then Brendan Donovan's your second baseman, because he's your best defender at that position that you have on the roster. He's a much better defender there than Nolan Gorman is, which means Nolan has to earn his opportunities as a designated hitter, occasional second base. And by the way, I might get him a first base glove too. I think there's an opportunity for that to be a thing too. So if you have injuries, maybe he slides there, Burleson slides to the outfield or whatever. You want to have some options there. But if I'm going, what's going to make the team best? Donovan's your best option at second base because he's your best defender there. We know he's going to be in the lineup. He's going to play somewhere, right? He's going to play left. He's going to DH. He's going to play second. Nolan Gorman is in the category of you need to do the job or you don't get to play. Yeah. And I would have Gorman lined up as the DH to start, just in the philosophical sense, with the idea that, yeah, he's going to play the field. Nobody's going to be a permanent DH. But if I'm trying to put the best lineup out there, the better lineup is Gorman at DH and Donovan at second.
Yeah, he's not a bad defender. It's just, Gorman strikes out a ton. And then, we'll leave shortstop alone. Mason Wynn, we already know that.
That's easy, right?
I mean, Mason Wynn's the guy they should be selling 0 jerseys in the team store, and every kid should be wearing them. I mean, he's the one of the future faces of the organization, and Arenado plays third. We get that. The question is, Thomas Saggese, where does he fit in? He is the next Tommy Edman, it looks like, but without really showing us too much defense yet, but he can play it. I mean, he's not just a stick. What do you think about Thomas?
I love him as that guy, whether it's the new Edman or the new Donovan, whatever. Get him every glove on the field. We know he was drafted as a shortstop. He played a lot of shortstop at Memphis this year. His best spot's probably second base. And again, Doesn't mean he won't play there if Donovan's the quote regular. So JC can play there. But I think you got to get him some reps in the outfield. You got to get him some looks in left field. Because, again, there's nothing left for him or Baker to prove in the minor leagues. They have both had more than a full season. And in Baker's case, 2.5 years at AAA. In JC's case, 1.5 years at AAA with half of last year being at AA. There's nothing left for them there. You have to find a way to get those guys to contribute, right? Well, they're both good right-handed hitters. I think that JC hits righties too. I don't think he's a platoon guy. But his spot should be playing against every lefty for sure. And then get him in against righties where it makes sense for you, right? Where guys need a day off or where he's hot, right? If he's hot, he plays. That kind of thing. So I think he has the versatility athletically to move around, to play the corner outfields, to play second, to play third, to play shortstop. Hell, get him a first base glove too. Why not? But I think he's got a chance to be a very good contributor, as even if it's not everyday, close to everyday guy playing all over the place, if that's the path they choose.
Talk me out of an everyday outfield of Lars Nootbaar in left, Michael Ciani in center, and Jordan Walker in right. How do I not go with that as my outfield unless I think I can go find some star out there to take one of their places? I don't see any other option. Do you?
I mean, there are other options, but they're not great, right? Well, one of them would be if Victor Scott has a great spring and comes and wins the job, right? That would be one way where that changes center field. I don't think there's a plan to put Newt in center very often. I don't have a problem with it on an occasional basis, right? You need some more offense on a given day or during a given week, and you go that route to get some more offense. I'm fine with that, but he's not a great center fielder. He's an adequate center fielder. If they want defense there, sure, Ciani's there, but they got to get more offense out of Ciani than they've gotten this year. I know that he had a good run where he was decent for a couple of months, but we also have a balance of that with a couple of months where it was bad. So what is Ciani offensively? Is he a close to league average guy that's going to run and steal some bases? Or is he a below average guy where it's defense only? And I mean, in the minor leagues, Tommy is a 240 hitter. I'm not sure that I would expect it to be a whole lot different than that, and he's not going to bring power. But as we're talking today, he's clearly the best option for center field of the people that we have in-house. And, I don't know what this could be longer term. I don't know, you want Scott to be the long-term guy, but for 2025, that sounds like the outfield. With Donovan, maybe JC, with those kind of guys moving in and out and playing out there a little bit too.
And then behind the plate, backing up Wilson, again, assuming that Wilson's on this club in 25, I'm assuming so with his contract.
Oh, yeah.
You got Pedro Paez showed us a lot. I mean, he has that savvy. He's tough as nails. Ivan Herrera's got a great bat. I don't think there's any doubt that he looks and plays the part of a hitter while still learning the position. You're a catcher, Kevin. Break down that catcher position for me.
Well, I mean, it's a no-brainer for the backup choice. It's Paez. No-brainer. I mean, if you can't slow down the running game, you can't be out there that often. I mean, I'm the guy that wants flexibility, right? So if I'm in a period of time where I have injuries or one of my best hitters is slumping and I need more offense, well, then I'm going to have Herrera. I want Herrera to be a part of that, right? And I think that's something that this past season was a failing of the team, is they would pick a path, and that's our path, and we're not veering from the path. And I'm saying that sometimes circumstances dictate that you need to veer from the path. You can say, we want defense, we want defense, we want defense. That's a great plan. Plans have to change when circumstances change. So when your middle of the order guys aren't hitting, or Wilson Contreras goes out, or other guys are slumping and you need offense, well, then put the offensive guys in there. And if you're doing well with those guys, like there was a really good period, Tom, when they were hot, when they had that 7-8 week stretch where they were awesome, where it didn't matter whether the center fielder hit or not because other guys were hitting, then that's great. I think, aside from what we've talked about, like individual positions and players, the number one thing has to be adaptability. You have to be able to adapt when circumstances change rather than just saying, no, this is what we do. The best teams adapt. The best teams go around and change. I mean, like, look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers have the huge payroll, right? But they still do this. They still play matchups. They still go with a different lineup against lefties than righties. They still adapt on the fly based on the team's needs. And that philosophy would be great. And I think you have players that can make it work. I think you do.
Who gets traded? Well, let's do this. Who doesn't get traded? I mean, there's the obvious ones. When we just talked about it, Will and Burleson.
Right.
Just leave Jordan Walker off this thing. Jordan Walker's not going anywhere.
You can't sell low. Like even if you think that you want to trade him someday, you don't trade him when he's been struggling. Right? No. I mean, I wouldn't trade him. To me, there's too much upside. I wouldn't trade Nolan Gorman unless the return is ridiculous. If the return is ridiculous, great. But if it's not, then I got to figure out how to get something out of him. I've got to figure out how to get 30 home runs out of him. I have to be able to help him do that. And if I can't, well, then that's on me as a team. You have to be able to make guys better.
Oh, and I know we talked about position players, and we got just a few more minutes here. But if you're talking about trades and opening things up, you probably have to think about what your pitching looks like. My hope is that the bullpen, for the most part, stays intact. If there's anything that went well, it was the bullpen and Ollie's management of the bullpen, by the way, really was their strong suit. So leave that alone if you can. It's always good to add an arm if you can do that. They've had a couple of misfires here. And the Riley O'Brien story was unfortunate because he looked so good early on. And then, missing the whole season, you see what happens. I look at the rotation, Kevin. I see Sonny Gray coming back. Obviously, he's under contract. I see Miles Mikolas. He's under contract, and his trade value is just not there. I mean, no one's going to trade for Miles Mikolas. Forget that.
Eat the contract.
You could eat it, but he's not trading him.
He's got like the third or fourth worst ERA in baseball for 2 years combined.
Right. So you just got to swallow the money if you're gonna lose him. So that opens up a spot, because as it stands right now, assuming that Lance Lynn indeed is done, Eric Fetty, I guess, could be tradable. He's under contract. He's tradable, but he's coming back. Palante's got to be in there. Yeah. He has to be in the rotation. So there are very few spots that are open for a team and a fan base that's hungry to win. That is very interesting to me, is how they're going to handle that 5-man rotation.
Yeah, this is part of why I feel like I want to try to handle the offense internally, right? I don't want to add – I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying I think you can do it. I think with a return to form and better, from some guys, a better health from Contreras, and then playing matchups better rather than just saying, these are our guys. I think you can maximize what you have and get good enough offensive production. I think the bullpen is fine. Hopefully you can re-sign Kittredge. That'd be great. If not, replace him. But I like the structure there. You got lefties, you got righties. I like where they are. The rotation to me is interesting, right? I agree with you 100%. Sonny obviously is the guy. If there's a great trade for Fetty, of course you think about anything. But I mean, I think you could assume that guy should be maybe your number 3 starter, right? Andre Palante's earned a spot. The only way I'm willing to bring Miles Mikolas back is if he commits to a significant change in how he does things. He throws too many strikes. His stuff is too hittable. He needs to throw fewer strikes. He needs to miss out of the zone. He needs to throw the ball. And he needs to change his pitch mix, because what he's doing isn't working. So if he's willing to commit to changing that stuff up, I'd be willing to say you can come in and be one of our starters. But I mean, who knows where. But the one thing I'd want to add from the outside this year for sure is another starter near Sonny's caliber. Somebody up there. And then whatever else I got to do, I'm going to do with the guys in-house. I'm going to do that with McGreevy and Graceffo and Quinn Matthews when his time comes. I don't want to, or Tink Hentz when his time comes. I don't want any more innings eater chasing. I don't want to go after the middle of the road guys. Go for the top end guy. Stay less expensive in the 4 and 5 spots. So if Miles sticks around, that makes that a little bit more complicated. And you may not have that spot that's just wide open. And I haven't mentioned Steven Matz. I just don't think you can count on him. He's talented, but he's never healthy, and he's never consistent when he is healthy. But again, under contract. So Do we think they're going to get rid of close to $40 million in salary and just send those guys away? I don't think they will. I think they have to figure out a way to maximize those guys. And this gets back to another thing, Tom, the big overarching theme of the offseason to me. They've got to figure out how to get players back to being better. You have to get back to fixing guys. Dave Duncan fixed guys. Now, the way to do that has changed, but other teams are doing it. I watch Cleveland does it. Tampa doesn't. It doesn't take a $250 million payroll to do it. They have got to figure out how to make their own in-house guys better, hitters and pitchers, when things aren't going right. Changing the repertoire up. Use more of this pitch, less of this pitch. And if the guys don't want to listen, then they can go take a seat.
Well, and it's time to change the way that you do things, because the way that they are doing things is not working anymore. And now the big question is, as we discuss this for another day, is which group of people will be making all of said decisions.
Well, in a week and a half, I think we're going to have a better idea. Maybe 2 weeks down the road, 3 weeks down the road.
Yes, we are. That's going to be very interesting. Kevin, always a pleasure, my friend. Great to chat with you.
You're the best, Tom.
You're the best.
You're the best.
We have a YouTube page. It's KMOX Sports. Subscribe to this. You'll be very happy you did. If there's one place you can trust for off-season information, it is right here. KMOX Radio, the Gas House Gang. We'll see you next time.